Good evening. My name is Michelle Cordero, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the ARC Erie County, New York. Today, you're going to hear from a variety of our administrative staff within the school program discussing a variety of topics. We have been meeting collectively to come up with creative solutions to a variety of issues and concerns with regards to the educational programming in the COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed the way we do everything in our day-to-day life, from going grocery shopping to going to doctor's appointments, and especially the way that we educate our children. We understand firsthand how difficult these past few months have been, as we are not only educators, but we are also parents, caregivers, guardians. Our teachers and our therapists and our staff have missed our children immensely, and we are hoping and they are excited at the prospect of seeing them come back in the fall. With that said, and with that in mind, we have created and developed our plan in accordance with the regulations set forth by the New York State Department of Health, by the New York State Education Department, by the Office of Child and Family Services, by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and the Erie County Department of Health. We also wanted to share some of our key factors that really solidified and developed our plan. And so first and foremost, we wanted to ensure the health and safety of all of our students and staff. We wanted to make sure that if we did decide to go and have in-person learning, that we were able to do that with the health and safety of everybody in mind. We also listened to families asking for in-person education services, realizing that it is difficult for many of our students to learn remotely. In those conversations, we also discussed student regression with regards to the educational piece, the social piece, and the therapeutic piece. And we do believe that we were able to come up with a solid plan, again, 5 days in person live, because we also do have the ample space to practice social distancing. What I would ask though is as we begin this 2020-2021 school year, please be patient with us as we're also working through these new processes and procedures. And hopefully we look forward to seeing all of your children in the fall. Now I'm going to pass it over to our two principals. Karen Mayweather is the principal of our preschool education program, and Linda Melkowitz is our principal of our school age program. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Mayweather. I'm the principal at our Green Acres preschool site. I'd like to welcome all of you who are participating in our school reopening public meeting. As Michelle said, it has been a very difficult time with a lot of uncertainties. So while we were experiencing our summer program, and most of it was distance learning and remote, we realized when some of the parents came to pick up materials, just seeing the children in the cars, that was the highlight of everyone's day. And so we know that it is a good thing for children to be able to see the people they've become familiar with. So over the summer, we did provide a lot of COVID-19 training for our staff, which we will continue to do as things change. Our primary commitment is to provide the highest quality of educational program and related services through this difficult time to the greatest extent possible. So it is a work in process, but we will, keep you posted as we go along. Linda?
Good evening. I'm Linda Malkowitz, the principal at the school age program. What I'm going to talk about for a little bit is the learning formats. We're going to have two learning formats. We're going to have the full 5 days a week in-person learning, and the other learning process will be a complete virtual remote learning. We're asking, letters went out on Monday. You may have received them already. We're asking parents or guardians to fill out the letter and choose which platform works best for your child. Again, you know your child best. We're asking that we send these letters back by the 26th of August. We've also sent them in emails to families. So we are hoping that we've reached everyone as quickly as possible because this is information we will need. I'd like you to know that all of our instruction, whether it be distance remote learning or 5 full days in, will be aligned with the New York State education standards, as well as your child's individual IEP. We are asking that those letters be sent back as quickly as possible in order for us to best set up our classrooms and provide that appropriate education for your child. At this point, what we're looking at is the 5 days in, but should something occur, if the COVID status changes in the county or the state, we may be forced to go remote. But at this point, the 5 days is what we are planning to do, but we will let you know immediately if those change. But as we go forward, Karen and I have briefly discussed our plan overview. The rest of our staff, which we'd like you to meet, will be discussing the plan in further detail. So without further ado, thank you. And here's the rest of our staff.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Karen. As we said, we're going to start out at a higher level, talking about the learning models and overall what both the in-person and the virtual learning is going to look like. And then we're going to go into a little bit more detail with health and safety and about therapy. So I will remind everybody to mute your microphones and also turn off the video as well. If you turn off the video on the control panel in the middle, that'll enable the entire screen to be our featured speaker, and it'll also make it run a little bit faster, so then people don't get delays. So just use the control bar in the middle of the screen, click on the camera that's there, and you can turn off the camera on your end, and that way we can have the cameras from our speakers. So on that note, the next speaker we're going to have up is Mary Beth Dempsey. She's our assistant principal at Maryvale, and she's going to go into a little bit more detail about what in-person learning is going to look like and what remote distance learning will look like. So go ahead, Mary Beth, you can take it over.
All right. Hello, everybody. Good evening. As previously stated, both the preschool and school age education programs will be reopening for in-person instruction in September. However, you may choose remote or distance learning if that better meets the needs of your child or family. For in-person learning, students will attend the school in the physical building for a full day on each scheduled school day, Monday to Friday, with established precautions for maintaining health and safety. Physical distancing measures are in place. Using this model, students are actively involved in the school learning environment. The students will primarily remain in their classroom cohort unless they require access to therapeutic equipment or activities outside of the classroom. Wherever possible, students will be provided with individual supplies such as pens, pencils, markers, and crayons, or other classroom materials. These items will be stored in a container that is personally assigned to that student. When materials must be shared between students, such as an iPad, computer, or something else, these items must be wiped with an approved disinfectant between uses. The remote or distance learning model provides education in a variety of ways that best supports the individual needs of the student and their families. Individualized learning opportunities can include live Microsoft Teams sessions in both group and one-to-one sessions, packets of materials mailed home or picked up by families, pre-recorded lessons on YouTube. Frequent communication occurs with parents to determine the best plan for each child and family. Plans are flexible and based on current and/or changing needs of the family. Remote or distance learning creates an opportunity for students and teachers to interact online and allows students to continue learning subjects and materials that are a key part of their curriculum or IEP. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Beth, to go through those. And I'll take this moment as well to kind of point out that all of the information that you're seeing on these slides, because we know some of them has quite a bit of information on them and information you may want to be reviewing after the presentation is over. So this PowerPoint presentation and this entire session will be recorded and they'll be posted up on our website by the end of this week. We'll also take all the questions that we've received over our 3 sessions. This team has been on 3 different calls today, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, one now. So we might be a little tired looking, so forgive us for that. But all the information will be up on the website. So if there is something that you miss in one of the slides, please don't worry. You can ask about it at the end of the presentation, or you can grab it afterward. So now that we've worked through our learning models, we know that therapy is also a huge part of a lot of our kids' lives. So We have Rebecca Campbell, who's our coordinator of occupational and physical therapy. We're going to bring her up, and she'll talk about how therapy will look in this new environment. So you can take it away.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is well. I'm here to discuss our plan for how children will receive their therapies during the upcoming school year. When I discuss therapies, it's encompassing physical, occupational, and speech therapy. For students attending school in person, students will be scheduled and seen for therapy as they have during typical school years. Accommodations have been made to the therapist schedule to allow for increased time for disinfecting. Treatment spaces have been set up to assist with distancing students from one another during their therapy sessions. Therapists will be using appropriate protective equipment while working with our students. If your child wears a mask, the therapist may ask the child to remove it for therapy on a case-by-case basis, depending on what they are working on. If your child receives therapy in a group, they may be seen one-to-one unless another child in their class receives a group, as they can be grouped together. Frequently touched items such as writing utensils, glue sticks, and scissors will be placed in bags and used only by that student in the classroom and during therapy. If your child is participating in remote learning, there are a variety of ways therapists can provide support for your child. Not every way of providing remote learning is appropriate for every child, and the best way to deliver therapy activities will be determined on a case-by-case basis in a collaborative manner. The ways that therapists can provide support include activity packets, emails, phone calls to discuss student goals and activities to address those goals, video calls, and/or teletherapy, which is the use of two-way video communication to provide a therapy session. If it is decided teletherapy is an appropriate way to provide therapy for your child, the therapist will need a parent or caregiver to participate in the sessions. This can include performing the activity with the child, providing positioning and support, and/or just providing guidance as needed. For more specific information regarding physical, occupational, or speech therapy, please contact myself or Lisa Coughlin, the coordinator of speech therapy. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. And I'll also add that at the very end of this presentation, we'll have a slide up on the screen that will have all the contact information for all the presenters. And on our main website, you'll see a big icon that you probably clicked on to get into this meeting that has a school reopening plans, which includes all the key contacts as well that you can go in to look and see who you need to contact for certain issues. So now we've gone through therapy, and now we're going to get really into the meat of why we're here, and that's on health and safety. And so we have Mary Ann Gibney, our coordinator of school health services, that'll walk through what we've done, what we've developed, and then a little bit about some of the procedures that we're following to keep all of our students safe. So Mary Ann, you can take it away.
So first, I'd like to say hello to all the parents and a very special hello to Payson. I saw that you helped your mom get on the Teams meeting today. So thank you, honey, for helping your mom join. I wanted to start by telling people that the school staffs 6 RNs to provide direct service to our kids. Our nurses are well versed in the needs of our children, and equally as important, our children are very familiar with our nurses. This is going to be especially important as our children come back to school. Our nurses are going to look a little bit different to them, but they're not going to sound much different. And we're going to take our time with the kids because it's very important that kids who have not been in school for about 6 months begin to feel comfortable with our nursing team. So we're going to go slow with them. We have a lot of treatments that our nurses dole out throughout the school day. We're going to take it easy. We're going to use our voices, and we're going to do it in such a way that the kids feel comfortable and to reduce their anxiety as well. In addition to the nursing team being well-versed in our children's unique needs, our nursing team is also well-versed in COVID-19. They're well-versed in how COVID-19 is transmitted, and they're extremely well-versed in how to mitigate risk within the school and the environment as a whole, and reducing the risk of spread and exposure. So what our nursing team has done is we have created general guidelines for our classrooms in both buildings. And the general guidelines focus on how do we set these classrooms up. Our assistant principals will go into more detail about that. what types of personal protective equipment that we need in general to approach our children, what type of hand hygiene and frequency of it that we need to do, and how basically do we need to run the classrooms in such a manner that our children are getting a solid education while we're keeping them safe and reducing risks of spread of potential COVID-19. So in addition to that, while we have given general classroom guidelines, we also have met with each classroom along with the assistant principals to talk to each classroom staff members on the uniqueness of their classroom and to try and tailor these general guidelines to meet the comprehensive uniqueness not only of their classroom as a whole, but the uniqueness of the children within their classrooms. We have had time for the classroom staff to ask us questions and to tailor these general guidelines to meet the needs that they have. These guidelines will be posted not only on our website, but they will also be posted in the classroom so our staff can reference them frequently throughout the day as a reminder of what needs to be done to protect our children and our staff as well. In addition to the general classroom guidelines, our nursing team has identified our most vulnerable children. These are children who, because they are medically fragile, would be at high risk for potential severe response to COVID-19 should they have an exposure in school. These children that have been identified have nursing care plans specific to them. These nursing care plans have been gone over with not only the classroom staff, but the therapists who will be providing service to them. We will be sending these child-specific care plans home the first day of school so that the parents can peruse them, ask questions, and feel free to call our nursing department if they have questions on our approach to their kids. We want to ensure that the families feel comfortable with the way we're managing our school and our children. In addition to that, we have implemented infection control measures in every area of the school, from the products that we're using to disinfect. I want to take a minute to describe the disinfectant we are using, because one of the things that we're very cautious about is that the products we're using to kill COVID-19 aren't inadvertently causing harm to our children. And the disinfectant we chose is Cavicide. And Cavicide we have used for many years. And the reason we chose it many years ago is because it's used in the NICU with the most fragile children with the most fragile lungs. So we don't want to do a lot of disinfecting to kill a virus and then have something that we're using be respiratory caustic to our children who have respiratory problems or our staff who have respiratory problems. In addition to the disinfectant we use, we also use a bleach solution in a sanitizing strength that is a much weaker strength. The smell is not the caustic smell you would smell if we were actually cleaning and disinfecting with bleach. But Cavicide cannot be used on toys that have been mouthed by children, and bleach has been a disinfectant approved by the Office of Child and Family Services to be used in a small concentration in food prep areas and toys that have been mouthed by kids. So that is the sanitizing solution that we would use in those instances. In addition to the disinfectant we're using, we have gone over and increased our frequency of cleaning, not only in general, but we've paid special attention to frequently touched surfaces, things that we don't think of, like light switches, doorknobs, hand railings. We have a laundry list that our staff is hanging in the classroom so that they know that as they clean and disinfect during the day to hit these targets that they wouldn't otherwise think about. And in addition to frequent cleaning, we also have worked with our staff on social distancing measures. I don't want to go into that too much because our assistant principals will be doing that. In addition to the enormous infection control measures that we're employing, we've also provided extensive training to our staff, not only in an overview of COVID-19, but what their important role is to reduce the risk of spread. So we have gone over the PPE that they need to put on and take off. We've gone over with our staff, as I said, classroom setup, therapy setup, dividers that they need to use. We've provided opportunity for our staff to ask us questions so that we can clarify things. And we also realize in creating our infection control protocols and our staff trainings that this is going to be an ever-changing and a fluid approach. As new things about this virus become more clear, as the Department of Health, both in the state and Erie County, and as the Center for Disease Control, look to change protocols based upon their knowledge base about this virus, we also will be looking to change our infection control measures as necessary and increase our staff training as necessary as well. We want everyone well informed, and we want our practice to be sound. So I think we're going to go on to the next slide. So we've also developed protocols and guidelines on when and how long to keep your child home from school for general illnesses. There's more out there than COVID-19. Our children will be coming to school for the first time in a long time. They are bound to get the sniffles and cold-like symptoms. And so we have particular guidelines that we will be sending home to the families on when to keep your child home and when they can return to school in certain circumstances. Those are on our website, but you also will be receiving a copy when you send your child to school. In addition to those general guidelines, we have developed protocols and guidelines for care should your child have an exposure to a presumed case of COVID-19 and or a confirmed case of COVID-19. We will be posting those guidelines and protocols on our website as well and sending families copies of those. Should your child become sick at school, and I want to walk through this a little bit. So you put your little one on the bus, you drop them off at school, and they're nice and healthy and happy. And as all parents know, you can send a perfectly healthy child to school, and by 10 o'clock in the morning, they can be running a fever or not feeling well. And so what's that going to look like in this climate? So our staff has a protocol to follow. They will call our nursing department. We have a well child office, and we have what we call our CARES office. So our well child office is where the kids would come down if they get medications or if they get routine treatments in the nurse's office, if they need an inhaler treatment using the spacer and their MDI inhaler, those types of a thing. If they had a little rash or something and they wanted the nurse to look at them. A child that is not feeling well will be directed to go to our CARES office. So we would have a staff member go down to that office, and we would have a nurse down there, and the nurse would do an assessment on that child. And if they felt that that child was ill and needed to go home, that child would be brought to a designated area, and they would stay with a staff member. Now, the staff member is going to have on some personal protective equipment, but it is going to be a familiar staff member so that the child, we can reduce anxiety and apprehension in the child. And that staff member is going to stay with your child until you arrive to pick them up. The nurse is going to call you and discuss the symptoms that your child is presenting, and she will set up a plan of follow-up care for you during that conversation. Then you will come and pick the child up, and the staff member who's been sitting with the child will walk the child to the door, and then the communication will be ongoing with the nurses from that point. I think I'm going to talk about masks. I think I've covered everything on that slide, Jeff. I think we can go to the mask slide. That ready? Yep.
Coming up now.
Thank you. So masks are a particular challenging thing to discuss with our population of children. First and foremost, our staff will be wearing masks at all times. Sometimes our staff will not only be wearing a mask, they will be wearing a face shield, and that is going to be activity designated. So our students, though, we recognize that in an ideal world, we would want our children to wear masks, but we recognize that in most cases with our children, this likely will not be feasible. So a child will be exempt from wearing a mask if it interferes with the child's breathing. A lot of our children have respiratory problems, so that would include a lot of our children. If wearing a mask will cause anxiety to a child, they're not going to wear a mask in school. If wearing a mask is distracting to a child, if they have some sensory issues around their mouth and they can't tolerate the mask touching their face, they're not going to wear a mask in school. If a mask could become a possible choking hazard to a child, say they like to chew on it, they bite off pieces of the mask, that child is not safe to wear a mask in school. If a child, and I say this with a little caveat, if a child cannot put a mask on and off independently, likely that child may not wear a mask in school. However, If your child needs help putting a mask on at school, we absolutely will help your child with it. Any child who wears that mask at school, what we are going to do is develop a mask protocol for that child. We recognize that child is going to need some breaks. We recognize that maybe a child can wear a mask some of the time, but not all of the time. So we feel it's imperative for the safety of your child and also the other children in the classroom to do a mask protocol for your child. It would be something that is written up by our nursing team in conjunction with the classroom staff. And a copy of that protocol would be sent home to you. So what do we do? Because we recognize the fact that many of our children cannot tolerate masks at school. So if we take away one area of infection control, we have to amp up the other areas of infection control. And the way we do that is we increase our cleaning and disinfecting. We increase social distancing. We design our classrooms, and again, the assistant principals will go over that so that children are separate but not separate. We work on hand hygiene. We work on respiratory hygiene, both with staff and students. We structure the number of people that are going in that classroom. We structure the number of people that are working with your child specifically. And we also do increased monitoring of signs and symptoms of illness in your child, both COVID related and un-COVID related. So I think that's about all that I have for right now. I'm going to turn it back to Jeff and can answer any questions at the end of this.
So thank you very much for that, Marianne. I know it's a lot of information. We had a lot of questions in our previous sessions about masks and about specifically for students that couldn't handle wearing the mask during the day. So I appreciate walking through that one by one. So I know a lot of folks appreciate that. Now we're going to move over to a little bit about what parents need to know, what families need to know, what caregivers need to know when they're bringing their kids to school and even when they're preparing to go to school in the morning. So we're going to hand it over to Jeanette. She's our Green Acres site coordinator, and talk about what you need to know every day before you head off to school. So take it away.
Hello. Good early evening to everyone. We are required to have a COVID coordinator at each of our schools. I'm Jeanette Timosiak. I'll be at Green Acres, and in a few minutes you will meet Sue from Maryvale. Continuing with health and safety, every day before your child comes to school, we are requesting you to do a few things. The first thing is to check your child's temperature. So if your child's temperature is below 100 degrees, they can go to school. If your child's temperature is 100 degrees or above, your child must stay home that day, and you'll contact the school and we'll talk to you about where we go from there. In addition to taking their temperature every day, you're going to check your child for symptoms of illness, like Marianne said, by answering questions on the COVID questionnaire. We're going to provide you with that questionnaire, so you will have that to refer to. If you answer yes to any of the questions, your child must stay home and you're going to contact the school. The completed form is going to be sent in every Friday with your child, and new forms are going to be provided to you by your teacher for the upcoming weeks. And what are we going to do with those forms? We're going to have them, actually we're going to lock them in the COVID coordinator's office for privacy, and we will refer to those if we need to do any contact tracing. So that would be very helpful information. So it's just another layer of health and safety that you can help us with. And I think that's about it for my part in health and safety. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful to know what you have to do before you send your child off to school in the morning and what you have to check. So on the other side of it, we're going to now go to our Maryvale site coordinator, Susan, and we'll talk a little bit about what the school is doing to keep the students safe and what's going to happen on our end when you drop off your child for a day at school. So I will pass it off again.
Thanks, Jeff. Hi, my name is Sue Cowan-Strack, and I'm the Maryvale site's COVID-19 coordinator. Some of my responsibilities are going to be taking temperatures of all the students prior to entering our school. I'm going to maintain the student screening logs for contact tracing should we have a COVID-19 case. I'm going to provide and monitor the use of personal protective equipment for all of our staff. I'm going to ensure that our staff has any disinfecting supplies that they need. And most importantly, I'm going to keep our families and staff up to date on the latest COVID-19 information. Thank you.
Wonderful. So the reason we wanted to have Susan and Jeanette here is that they really are the lead in tracking all the information that they have to have for COVID-19 to make sure parents are kept in the know and that all of our information is kept safe and kept consistent across our program. So their information will be at the end of the presentation, and it'll also be on our website as one of the key contacts for our programming. So again, we're going to go into questions at the end, but we did want to go through school meals and nutrition. There were some questions about how is the school meal service going to work to keep the students safe, as well as for those remote learning. So I will hand it over to Nicole, our administrative manager, who will walk through our school meals and nutrition.
Thank you, Jeff. Good evening. I'm Nicole Barnes, and I am the administrative manager, and part of my job is to oversee school meals. I would like to share with our families this evening that all of our students can participate in meals, those coming to school and those learning at home. Breakfast and lunch will be available to all students daily. On-site students have the option of not participating in bringing in meals from home. To further our efforts for health and safety, all meals will be packaged in individual containers, disposable individual containers. On-site meals will be served in classrooms. We will be following all sanitizing and disinfecting and social distancing with our students. Staff assisting students with meals will also be wearing their proper PPE. The meal distribution schedules for our remote learners will be shared or posted prior to the opening of school. My information will be shared at the end of the slide and also posted on our website. So if you need to contact me at any time, please feel free to do so. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Nicole. We already have some questions flowing in, which is great, and we're logging them all down. And so we only have 2 more sections to go. And this is going to be talking about site-specific procedures. So we're going to talk about both the environmental changes that have happened at each school, as well as arrival and dismissal. That obviously those have to change a little bit to keep everybody safe as they come in. So first, we're going to start with Deborah Norwood. She's our assistant principal at Green Acres to go over what environmental changes you can expect, and then our arrival and dismissal. So I'll hand it over to you.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what we've done this summer at the Green Acres site. One of the most important things we did is we sat down with each and every classroom and the staff, and it was myself, our school nurse, and our COVID coordinator, and we talked about ways that we could help keep preschool students safe, and knowing that they're preschool students, some of the things that we could do, and those are changes to our environment as well as teaching strategies. So the first thing we did was we took a look at defined center areas so that when a child is in a certain area, he knows where the boundaries are. So if he goes to the play area or the fine motor area or the housekeeping area, that it doesn't look like those areas are running together. And so that then the teaching strategy would be utilizing the staff in the classroom to have children in those different areas, knowing they're preschool students and they will move from area to area, but if we help them to see boundaries, it might allow for better spacing. Along with that, we individualize the materials. So we not only individualized our crayons and our markers and our glue, we individualized things like our sensory materials. So if you have beans or rice, no longer will they be in a big table with a bunch of children at the table. They'll be more individualized. They'll have your beans will be in your bag and they will go in a specific bin when you're playing with them. They'll go back in your bag with your name on it when you're done, and the bin will be sanitized before someone else uses it. Like Play-Doh, and
when we use the water table, we'll start to think about social distancing. We'll still have our big water table, but we might only have 2 students at the table at a time. So they're not on top of each other, they're spaced out. When we're working at tabletop activities, we probably will only have a couple of children at the table. Our tables will look a little different. We're going to have every child's name on their chair or their picture, some way to help them identify where their space is, and maybe on the tabletop. So that way, chairs aren't being shared and reused. And you're coming back to the same spot at the table when you're eating your breakfast and your lunch. And we're minimizing how close they are, and we're spacing everybody out. The last thing that we're going to do is take a look at the materials that are in those centers. So, for example, if you're looking at a book, you might only see 8 books out for that morning session. And as a child reads a book, he'll put it in the used bin so that it can be taken out of circulation and sanitized before it comes back. Something like our Legos, we may only put half the Legos out in the morning so they can be taken out of circulation and sanitized. And then when we go back to a Lego area, we put the rest of those materials out. It's all about limiting sharing materials and making sure we have the opportunities to disinfect and sanitize before they go on. With all that being said, the most important thing we can teach our preschoolers is hand washing. And there'll be a lot of it. And so we recognize they're preschoolers, and we want to have hand washing be a positive experience for them. So we have talked about ways to make that positive and the strategies we can employ. Things like, while you're washing your hands, can we sing a song so that you continue to wash it till the music stops? Can we give you picture cues? We talked about having a spray bottle with soapy water in it. So we can play the spray bottle soapy water game where everybody gets soapy water sprayed on them, and then we sing a song. And when the song is done, then we rinse it all off with a spray bottle and dry our hands, so that we're giving kids opportunities to make hand washing fun. If we could even have a bin of soapy water with your favorite toy in it, so that gets you to want to put your hands in the water and move them around. So there are different levels, and it'll take some individual kind of efforts for some of our kids, but we're hoping to make it more of a fun experience as opposed to a requirement. With all that being said, the next thing that we need to talk about is, because most of the time our kids during the day will be in their classroom, they'll have breakfast and lunch in their classroom, they'll stay with their group of students. We will limit. One of the things that we did a lot was have children go for, they played with each other. And so this year, unfortunately, you're going to be playing with the kids that are in your classroom, and we're not going to be adding in students from other classrooms. We really want to limit those interactions and limit the movement in the hallways whenever we can. And that brings us to busing time, which is arrival and dismissal. At arrival, it'll look a little different. If you're a returning family, you'll know that that was always a very busy time in our building. We had parents coming into the building. We had buses lined up outside. There was a lot of congestion. And so we've tried to find ways that we can distance our students out. At first, we're going to take our students that are in wheelchairs, and we're going to move them to door number 9 in the back. The nurses will meet them there, and they'll move them to their classroom, which is only a couple doors down. So it'll minimize their time in the hallway and their interaction with other people, hopefully. All other buses will still come to door number 1, and staff will still meet those buses and escort children into the building. But we probably won't offload 5 buses at a time. We will try to do it so that we can space the children out coming into the building and children moving through the hallways, and we really want to avoid there being congestion while that's happening. The last part is our parents will now have their own drop-off door at the back of the building. It'll be door number 11, and we would like parents to park along Pryor Avenue, and a staff member will come out and do a temperature check at your car. And once the child's temperature has been verified and where the health screening questions are met, the staff will then escort the child into the building, and the child will be escorted to their classroom individually. This will give us the opportunity to share information. I know parents that have dropped their kids off had that great opportunity to talk about how their evening was, how their morning was, what they ate. If there were any concerns, you can still share that with the people that are coming to your car to ensure that the classroom teacher gets that information. Dismissal will look a little different also. If you were in our building during dismissal, you'll know that we tend to have a lot of congestion at the front. There's tons of buses, parents coming in, kids lined up in the hallway waiting for dismissal. So that's going to look different too. First, we're asking parents again to pick their children up at door number 11, and we've changed our dismissal time to 2 o'clock. We've done that so that we can alleviate some of the congestion that might cause, and also free up some of the staff members that will be needed to move children to buses and to come from their classroom to get parents. So we're hoping by 2:15, when the regular dismissal is, most of the students who have parents are gone, and now those people will shift over to help kids get on buses. We probably won't call more than 2 buses at a time. And as we're doing that, same thing, we're going to space those kids out in the hallways. We're going to try to eliminate that congestion that's occurring. The one thing I know about this plan is it's a work in progress. It's going to require us to have a little practice to get into a more streamlined approach. And it's going to take a little time at first. And so we're asking that you bear with us and let us get our sea legs, I guess, and figure out if there's a better way we can do something. But this is our best approach right now, and I think it will help with our social distancing and help alleviate congestion in the building. If you have any questions, again, my contact information will be up at the end of the presentation, or if you're a returning parent, you know where my door is, and you can call me at any time or email me. I'm always there to listen to your concerns or your questions. And I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. And so to make sure we have enough time at the end for the questions, and I know we already have about a half dozen that have come in, so we're going to hop right over and talk about some Maryvale specific procedures. So we have Kathy Opera here, our Maryvale assistant principal, and she'll walk through their environmental changes and then some slight changes to the arrival dismissal. So I think you're right up, Kathy.
I am. Good evening to all our families. Just like the preschool program, we at the school age program have been diligently working all summer to get this program and this building ready for your student to attend in fall. We understand at any age social distancing may be difficult for our students due to the nature of their disability and the required level of need. The following strategies have been put in place and will continue to be implemented to potentially help mitigate the risk of COVID-19. We have visual supports throughout common areas, in the classrooms and therapy rooms, reminders to do hand washing, to keep social distancing, and a variety of protocols. We have arrows in the hallways for movement to eliminate congestion. Those arrows are also on our stairwells. We have suggested seating arrangements for students when possible that include a 6 feet distance. Many of our teachers have opted for desks this year as opposed to the large group tables that they've been using in the past. You may see there throughout the building are 6 feet distant markers, so staff and students can remember to keep their social distance. There is signage posted throughout the building to remind staff of policies and procedures regarding COVID-19. Classrooms have removed any unnecessary furniture and anything that may be difficult to disinfect. And to every extent possible, we're going to limit student and staff intermingling throughout the day in classrooms, hallways, and therapy rooms. As far as protocol, for students who ride buses, they will arrive in the front of the building like normal. The other assistant principal and I will be out there, and we will be calling buses as they come in 1 to 2 at a time, and staff will come get the students. Upon them reaching the door, our outer doors, that's where their temperatures will be taken. If they have a temperature of 100 and above, they will not be permitted to go to their classroom. We have phones in those vestibules. Staff will call the nurses and nurses will direct the staff to where to bring the students. For any parent that is transporting their student, we do have to have some changes to that to decrease congestion. Families will now go to door 9 in the back of the building. Parents will not need to enter the building. A staff person, probably Miss Sue, will go to your car and take your child's temperature. If the temperature is 100 degrees or above, you will need to take your student home. If the temperature is below 100, a different staff person will greet your child and take them to their classroom. If you are a parent that drives your students or a parent that allows your child to take the bus and that changes during the day, we ask that you please notify your classroom teacher so that we can plan appropriately. Late arrival students will continue to use door 1 like normal. Parents will buzz clerical and wait for staff to come retrieve the student. Parents will not be allowed to take their child to their classroom. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kathy. And again, all this information from the slides will be put up as PDFs up on our website by the end of this week. So if you do want to download it and review some of these so you can print it out and have a copy of it, it'll be available for you. So I noticed the time now. We only have about, we'll schedule for about 15 minutes, 10 minutes left. So we're going to look at our communication slide with Linda, because I know she does want to talk about the student contact information section. I think if you just cover that part, and then we'll move on to questions, Karen. How's that sound?
Sounds good. Okay. First of all, I want to say that the beginning of the first day of our school program in September will be September 9th. We will be sending out, as we usually do, a large packet of information with all the information that you will need regarding the school session, and also material that you need to send back to us in terms of current phone number, email, so that we will be able to contact you as quickly and as possible. If numbers change, we would like for you to get that information to us as possible. So I'm going to let Linda go into her part so that we have lots of time for questions and answers.
I just want to stress the importance of keeping that phone contact information as current as possible. And if your emergency contact information changes, we need to know right away. Again, we're looking to probably use robocall within the next school year, so that would be an immediate notification to families. But it only works as good as the numbers that are current and appropriate for your family. So if we don't have the current number, the robocall won't work. But again, we also want you to receive the information that you need about COVID-19, about what's going on in our school. And we wanted to come to you in the way that that is most appropriate for your family, whether it be email, US mail, the website, phone calls. We will accommodate whatever you want. But again, and on that form, let us know what is your preferred method of communication. We want to make sure that we have excellent two-way communication, because with that, we will be able to get through this and all our children will stay safe. So thank you for letting us present this evening, and now we will take your questions.
Great. All right. So I guess that comes out to me to go through the questions. And I think we're just going to hop into the questions that were submitted to us tonight through the chat box. And I'll feed them off, and then whatever team member feels appropriate, they can jump in and answer the question. After we go through the chat box questions, then we'll open the floor if anybody wants to ask them either through video or by phone. So first off, I will read the questions because we do have some folks that are coming in via phone. How will vision therapy be handled? So I don't know if Rebecca or Linda, you want to grab that one?
I'll grab that one. Our vision services we provide in both programs is a contracted service. We will continue to provide the contracted services that we have provided from the school year. So that is, the contracts were sent out. They will begin in September as they always did. If we're looking at remote learning, I believe they will be contacting the families to provide that service also. So remote or vision therapy will be provided as per the IEP.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Now I think we have a couple questions that are going to be for Mary Ann here. If hand sanitizer and hand soap is used, can we send in our own to avoid the chemicals that are used in most of these products?
Well, as far as hand sanitizer goes, we are not using hand sanitizers on our children. A lot of our children put their hands in their mouths, and hand sanitizer can leave a residue. So we will only be washing children's hands with soap and water. If you would prefer, if you have a hand sanitizer that you would like used, certainly we would honor that request and we would keep it away from other children and all of that. But we do have reservation about hand sanitizers. There's some information out there that children, it can be poisoned with continued use of hand sanitizers because it does leave a residue on them and they put their hands in their mouth. So our preference at the school and what we will be using routinely at the school is plain soap and water. Soap and water really is one of the best things to do. As Debbie told you, we have lots of ways to get our children to wash their hands. But I don't want to negate using hand sanitizers if that is a parent's preference. What I would like to do, if it is a parent's preference, is to have that parent call our nursing department so we can set up a plan for hand sanitizing use for your particular child, and also a plan to keep it out of reach of other children, because we have to reduce the risk of a child getting into it and potentially not necessarily drinking it, but putting it on their own hands and then putting their hands in their mouth. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you we have reservations about it.
Well, since I have you on here, another question came in, which is the same question I had. What is respiratory hygiene? I think when they were talking about masks.
So respiratory hygiene, very simply, is teaching children how to cough. So we as adults have learned that we cough into our elbows. A lot of children just cough into the air. So we would be working with children to use good respiratory hygiene, and preschoolers and school age kids can learn this. So we would teach them to cough into their elbows, recognizing that many children might just cough into their hands. We would have to be diligent in hand washing. The other thing I want to stress to parents is we have a lot of children in program who cough, and that cough really has nothing to do with illness. There are many reasons behind some of our kids' cough. I alluded to in the beginning that we have 6 registered nurses on site, and they do know our children very, very well, and they know what is considered normal for our children. And some of our children have normal coughs associated with another underlying condition. And some of our most fragile children who tend to cough, that has nothing to do with illness. We have spoken with families about actually putting a shield, a face shield on their child if it does not cause them anxiety or harm. So there are some strategies that we are putting in place, but basically speaking, respiratory hygiene is either covering your mouth in some manner when you cough, and also with some of our kids who drool a lot, working with our kids to wipe their face, throw their tissues out correctly, and wash their hands frequently. I hope that answers the question. If it didn't, please ask a backup question. I'd be happy to address it.
Oh, I think that's very helpful for a lot of people I know. And so we're going to hop into the next question, which has to do with busing. There was a couple of questions. So one regarded and I think this is for Linda. She was handling the busing questions of how is social distancing going to occur on the buses? How often are they cleaned? And I think more globally, what is the transportation looking like at both of the schools in terms of busing?
I'll start with the school age program. With the school age program, busing is provided by your school district. So with that being said, school districts are contracting with bus companies or school districts that have their own bus transportation. My understanding is they're working on their procedures to set up the social distancing on the bus. I could not answer those questions directly because I don't have the information. I mean, you would probably be best checking with your school district's website. They would probably list for school age what their busing procedures are and what their cleaning procedures are. That would be my best bet for the most correct information.
On the preschool end of things, we had a meeting with the Erie County Primary Transport, and that is First Student last week, and they said that they will be transporting students. There would only be one student to a seat, and that they would be social distancing the kids on the bus. If a child could wear a mask, then they could wear the mask. They also are still in the process of developing their policy and procedures, but they did say they will have a parent section of their website as they get more information. Last we heard that they said they would be actually temping kids before we got on the bus, but they were having another meeting with their internal people, and we would get more information on Thursday. So as soon as we get the information, we will give it to you. We have been asked for bus lists if we know them, which is why that questionnaire we sent out on Monday, we really need to get that back so that we can determine how many kids might need a bus so that they can do some routing. Um, but they have said that they will be using some sort of sanitation. I just have not seen that in writing. And as soon as we get a link to their website or they give it to us in writing, we will pass that on to you. Niagara County, they're much smaller, and they did say that they would be transporting as well, and they're still formulating their program. So more to come. As we said, this is really kind of in flux, and we're giving you the information as soon as we get it.
So in a follow-up question to the transportation, if a school district is following the hybrid model and only going a couple days a week, will they be receiving transportation 5 days a week, our in-person program? Do we have any information on that?
Yes, they will. I know for sure Lockport will be because they contacted us and asked us what our schedule was. So they will be providing 5 days a week busing for the children that are coming into program.
And the same with preschool.
Okay. And I'll acknowledge one of the questions. I know we don't know the exact answer about where the temps are being taken. I know on the buses, the bus companies are still going back and forth whether or not they'll be taken on the buses or before they get on the bus. Understanding that we do live in Buffalo, and so keeping them outside would be great, but we'll get some more information on that. So I guess we'll push that one off to the side.
Well, Jeff, I can answer that a little bit. With our kids coming in at Maryvale, they will come into the vestibule to be temped. They won't be temped outside. So we have a vestibule between the outside and the building. So they will not be kept out in the cold. We will take their temperatures inside there. And if should they be higher than 100, there's a phone where we are able to contact the nurse. So we will be doing it that way at the school age building. So we won't leave children outside in the snow. I promise.
Well, that's good. That's reassurance that's there. So this is another question that talks about scheduling and obviously, you know, things can change in our own lives and with COVID in the county if it goes up and down. So right now, the options are either in school 5 days a week or virtual 5 days a week. If a remote selection is made now, can it be changed to a in-person? And vice versa, if they're going in person now, can that be changed to remote? And, you know, there is no hybrid option currently available. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That is correct. We looked at a hybrid option. However, our children need continuity. They've been out for months now, and we felt that if we were going to come back to school, that we should try it for 5 days a week. Obviously, if your child can only manage 3 or 4, you need to have a conversation with us about that. However, we do plan to have kids in 5 full days a week, and we will do the best that we can, knowing that each family might be a little bit different. Linda, I interrupted you.
No, that's the same thing, Karen, I would say.
Great. So I am just going to throw one other question out there that I know was asked during the first 2 sessions that regards school supplies. So all those small items, glue sticks, crayons, will parents be providing that to bring with the student, or will the school be providing it?
At this point, we are providing those things for the beginning of the school year.
And the same at the preschool building.
Great. Well, I think that locks down all the questions that we received ahead of time. And now we've gotten through all the chat box. So if anybody wants to ask a question that's joined us by phone, or you want to flip on your audio on your computer and ask a question, this would be the time to ask it. Well, I guess after having 3 sessions today, our team has gotten ahead of all the questions. I know there's a hand raised that somebody had a question, so I think that, go ahead and you can ask your question.
Yeah, that was me. I'm Joanne Vanderheit. I was just wondering if we're allowed to send a book bag in with our children to have supplies for when they need to use the bathroom or anything like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You can-
Thank you. That was all I had.
Well, that was a new question for us, so I'm glad you asked that because that was a very good question. So I think we have
there's another hand.
Yep, another hand's raised. So please go ahead with your question.
My question is that my daughter uses a helmet for safety, and sometimes her temperature is a little higher due to her wearing the helmet. Is it possible that her temperature could be retaken after a few minutes, to give her body time to regulate the temperature without her helmet?
I'll take that question, Jeff. Yes, again, our nurses will know baselines for our kids, and we do recognize that there's going to be certain instances that a baseline temp might appear to be a little higher, especially with a child who has worn a helmet. They might be a little bit sweaty. So if that was the case, we would retake it. I'm going to encourage you to write that in your child's notebook so we have an alert on that so that we can flag her, okay? And so that will give us an opportunity to say, okay, this is a little one that if their temperature is a little high, let's give them a minute, let's have them adjust, and then we'll retake the temp before we make any decisions. Certainly, but send that information into the nursing department so we have your child flagged, okay?
Alrighty, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Joanne, did you have another question, or did I miss the hand that's raised, or does anybody else have any other questions? That
Yeah,
they want
I just wanted to elaborate on that last question. Like my daughter's on the bus for a good hour, so she might be hot and sweaty with her coat on in the winter. Does that have anything to do with the temperature?
I'll take that. Of course it can. I think these are the little glitches that we're going to have to work through. One of the other things about taking temps that when we go out to cars, if the car is really hot and the kids are overheated in the car, their temp might be a little high. So I think we're going to have to work through these glitches. We don't want to send well children home. This is new for all of us. I don't think any one of us is old enough to have been through a pandemic before. So there are going to be certain uniquenesses to children, and we have to be careful again that we're not sending well children home. And so we're very fortunate that we have registered nurses on site that can kind of sift through these ambiguities and work through because again, we're just not going to rashly send a well child home. We're not going to do that, but you'll have to bear with us as we meander through what are regulations too. This gets kind of sticky because you have all of these regulations written down, and then you have children who haven't read the regulations and their own unique, beautiful selves. And we have to recognize that not everybody is fitting into this neat little box of COVID-19 symptomatology or no COVID-19 symptomatology. So Joanne, we will be looking at all of that. So just bear with us and we'll have conversations with you too. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for everything.
You're welcome.
All right. I think, don't know if there's any new questions that have come on board. So again, this is an open forum for anybody on the phone or anybody that's logged in to ask a question. Great. This was a good group for sure. And we had some great questions. So the follow-up steps that we're going to have after this is I'm going to put up the information on the slide, and that's going to stay on the screen for as long as people are logged on. We'll keep it up on the screen. So I'll put that up there now. This is all the key contact information for all of our programs. So that was everybody that presented today. So if you do have a specific question and you do want to follow up, these are the people you're going to reach out to. And then you'll also note on there, we do have Jeanette and Susan, our COVID-19 site coordinators that are really going to be the keepers of all this information. So their information is up there as well. By the end of the week, you'll see that we'll have the PowerPoint in a printable form that we'll put up on our website. We'll have recordings of probably this session, because this session was really good. We had some really great questions, and then an aggregate of all the questions we were asked throughout the day, and a little frequently asked questions we'll put up on the site for all that. And so you'll have that to refer to. And so with that, I think we're going to break for the evening. I want to thank everybody for joining with us, and hopefully we'll see a lot of smiling faces in the classroom in just a few weeks. So thank you, everybody, and have a great evening.